Look at this perfect pumpkin. This is Ruby, you guys. She is 3 weeks old. She is a very sweet, hungry baby. And I'm going to tell you guys this story about how she came into the world. This is my birth story, and I hope you guys enjoy. Hey guys, my name is Simone, and this is usually a business channel, but I thought today we would talk about my birth story, how actually I am a business coach, and I was able to make money while I delivered this baby, but I also really wanted to talk about my actual birth story. I had an unmedicated labor. It was 3 hours. It was super short. Miss Ruby came into the world with no complications. We're so happy about that. And yeah, I just wanted to tell you guys a story about what happened. So let's get your tea, get your coffee, and sit back, and we're going to tell you about how Miss Ruby came here. Honestly, she was a little bit overdue. She came into the world at 40 weeks and 2 days. So throughout my whole pregnancy, I was pregnant the entire 2020. I got pregnant in January, and then she was due in October. So I was pregnant the whole year. That was a long haul. And what happened was she was measuring very small, so they decided they were going to, my doctor decided that she was going to just monitor me and see like how things were going. I actually made it to 40 weeks, and at 40 weeks and 2 days, my doctor asked me, do I want to have my membrane swept? Now, if you're new to birthing, birth stories, labor, delivery, sweeping membranes is kind of gross, but basically your doctor puts a glove on and they put their fingers inside of you and they go like this on your cervix, and it helps sweep some of the cells out, so it kind of tells your body that you're ready to start labor. So we did that at 40 weeks and 2 days, and then we decided that if that didn't work, then we might talk about inducing me the next week, so I could just have the baby out before the baby got too big, etc. So anyways, she swept my membranes, and I felt so crampy afterwards. We went and got a burrito, and I started having contractions, and I was like, oh my gosh. And she also checked me at that time, and she told me that I was 5 centimeters dilated. So you have to be 10 centimeters dilated to have a baby, and so I was halfway there, and that's totally natural. A lot of times people walk around 5 or 6 centimeters dilated for up to 3 weeks. That's what happened with my first daughter. I was really dilated, and that's just kind of how my body works. And so that ended up happening, and I started getting super crampy later on the day. I was very emotional. We called my sister and said, come over because I think we're going to have the baby tonight. And what happened with my first daughter is that she actually was born 24 hours after I got my membrane swept. So we called her, we had my sister come over, and she decided to take her sweet time, love her. But she didn't start coming over until like 6 or 7. And so throughout the day, I just got worse and worse contractions, like worse cramping. I had a coaching call. I think I had 2 coaching calls, with one with a friend who was helping me with my LinkedIn profile, and then another person, and I think I had another call with like my group program. So I was like out here on calls and doing things. This was a Thursday, so I was like, okay, or maybe it was a Wednesday, I can't remember. But so I was like, yeah, this will be fine. And I just was getting way more cramping and way more contractions. And so it was just uncomfortable. I could still walk, I could still talk, but it just wasn't feeling good. And I just felt like, and afterwards, like I was bleeding a little bit. And so I was like, I called the hospital and I said, should I come in? And the first lady said, yeah, you should. Then I called back again, and there was a guy who answered. He was a doctor, and he said, you know what, just come in when it starts feeling really painful, and then we'll see you. Like, there's no reason to come in now. So I actually had a few hours to just like get my stuff together, get my bag all packed, and it was already packed, but I got to add some extra stuff to it. And wait for my sister to come. So it was really nice to have that extra time. So we're at home and I'm just relaxing on the couch. My sister's helping my first daughter go to bed, who's 4. She's getting her ready, and then all of a sudden, like, my contractions start going crazy. They started going every 7 minutes, and they were painful, you guys. They were so fucking painful, I'm not gonna lie. And it was just like, boom. It was like somebody was just using the tightest rubber band around my stomach. It was like I could not breathe, I could not talk, I had to walk around, I felt like I needed to cry. It was so painful, and I was like, fudge, here we go. It's really time, it's go time. That's when those contractions are like, okay, you're gonna have a baby right here and right now. My biggest fear always is that I'll have the baby at home. So I'm like, I can't have this baby at home. So my husband was in bed. We just got a new TV in the bedroom, and he was just sitting in bed, and I was like, we gotta go to the hospital. And he's like, are you sure? I'm like, we have to go now. And he was like, well, how far apart are your contractions? I'm like, they're every 7 minutes, but they're getting really intense. And he was like, well, you're not supposed to go to the hospital until it's every 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes apart. The contractions are a minute long, and they're 60 seconds. Well, yeah, they're a minute long. They go for a full hour. That's what it is. It's the 5-1-1 rule. So I just felt like intuitively something was going on, and I was like, damn it, we gotta go now. And I went to the bathroom, and this might be TMI, but like, I went to the bathroom because a lot of times what happens is before you're about to give birth, your body like empties itself. So like, I had to just let it go, let it flow. And that actually felt really comfortable, like just like sitting on the toilet. So I'm like, let's go now. And then I went into the bathroom, had to do my business, and the contractions went from every 7 minutes all of a sudden to every 2 to 3 minutes. And it was in like 15 minutes that happened. And that's really weird. That was really fast. Usually, like with my last baby, it was like, okay, every 8 minutes, every 7 minutes, 6 minutes, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, and it just really gradually. This happened quickly, and I was scared, and I was in so much pain. I was crying. I'm like, this is so painful. I don't remember it being this painful. Richard's like, we should really go. And I'm like, I can't even get off the toilet because I'm in so much pain. Everything, like, I couldn't even wipe myself because I was like trying to stand up, and I'm like, it hurts too bad. So I ended up standing up and getting my shit together, getting my Crocs on because I love my Crocs, and I ended up getting my Crocs on, getting my jacket. My bag was ready. My husband was trying to help me. He helped me to the car, and that car ride was so painful, you guys. That is one of the most painful things. So you can't get up and walk around. You're in the car, and I'm like in the car moaning, just like, ah. Richard put on, my husband, he put on like oldies, and I'm just like, this isn't helping. Like, I didn't want anything. I just wanted quiet. And so we drove the 15 minutes to the hospital, and we get in, and I had to walk into the hospital through the parking lot, and I was just like, God, this is terrible. I had to stop every minute or two because that's how fast the contractions were coming, and I just had to stop, and I was like, this is terrible. And so I said to my husband in the parking lot, I think I'm open to an epidural this time. And he goes, okay, honey, let's see. And I'm like, I think I'm okay with it this time, because with my firstborn, I didn't have an epidural. And with the second one, I was like, bitch, what do you have to prove? You have nothing to prove. So I decided I had nothing to prove. I was open to epidural because I was in so much pain. And so we walked in, and they started checking us in. They're like, do you need a wheelchair? And so I reluctantly sat in the wheelchair, and I was just so out of it and so tired, and I was just like, ugh. They wheeled me into the room, and that was the room I was supposed to have the baby in. And my doctor was actually not on call. She was actually done with her shift. She was not coming back into the hospital until the next day. So it looked like she wasn't going to deliver the baby, which I was kind of bummed about, but I expected, because it's about 20% chance that your doctor, your OB, actually will deliver your baby. So I was kind of, anticipating that she wouldn't be able to. Anyway, so we get in the hospital, we get in the room, and I am just so tired and hungry and like exhausted. I needed water. I asked for a bouncy ball. I bounced on the ball for a while, and I mentioned, hey, like maybe I want an epidural. And they're like, yeah, we'll see. And I'm like, why is no one getting me an epidural? So I brought it up again and they said, you know what? You are probably going to have the baby in about 45 minutes. I said, no, that's not true. I'm not going to have the baby in 45 minutes. I just got here. And she goes, yeah, by the time that the anesthesiologist gets here and he takes your blood, because he's got to take your blood, he's got to analyze it, he's got to run some tests, and then he can come back in and then administer it, and then it'll take another hour for it to go in, and that's looking like 2 hours, and we really think you're going to deliver in the next 30 to 45 minutes. And I looked at Richard, my husband, and I'm like, what? There's no way. I cannot push this baby out in 45 minutes. And they're like, you're really going really fast. Like, you're 6.5 centimeters dilated. You're just basically going to have to deal with it and push through. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm so pissed because I'm like, I really wanted to see what an epidural was like, but it just wasn't in the cards for me. Because at this point, it was like 10 o'clock or like 10:15, and we had just gotten there about 30 minutes beforehand, and they were just like, no, you're just gonna have to breathe through it. And I'm like, so I got out my bouncy ball and I bounced. My husband rubbed my shoulders. I moaned and screamed through all these contractions. I'm not ashamed to admit it. And it was just so painful. And I was like, are you sure? I was like, I want epidural, I want epidural. And so I was like, what about laughing gas? So they had laughing gas, they had nitrous. I was able to put it on, but it just made me so nauseous and lightheaded that I had to stop using it. So things were progressing and it was just getting so painful. And I said, I want to get on all fours. This is where it gets graphic, you guys, so don't listen if you're squeamish. But I was like, I want to get on all fours. So I got on all fours, and my doctor was like, I said, I feel like I'm ready to push and I feel like things are going. And she checked me and she goes, you're 9.5 centimeters dilated. So I went from 6.5 centimeters dilated to 9.5 in about, like, I think 30 minutes or 45 minutes, which is really fast. So I was like, almost completely dilated. You can't push until you're 10 centimeters. And so she goes, you're not quite ready. We need to wait. And you still have a little bit of a bag, which is like your water breaking, your bag of water breaks, and my bag of water hadn't broken. So she was like, let's just wait and, let's see how you feel. And so she's like, let's break your bag of water. So she broke my bag of water while I was on all fours, and it was so gross. It was so gross. It like gushed down everywhere. It was really, really nasty. And she ended up saying, like, she's like, I said, let's check again after the next contraction. And she was like, well, it's kind of, usually it takes more time. And I was like, no, just check again. I feel like it. And so she checked again and I was ready. She was like, you're ready to push now. And I'm like, yes, finally. So my body was saying, ready to push. I was on all fours. That's how I had my previous baby. And I was just like, okay, let's do this. And she was like, okay, well, if you feel like pushing, go ahead and push. And so I pushed. Nothing really happened. And then the second time I was like, my body was like, push, bitch. And so I pushed, and it just felt like it's time to get this baby out. And I felt, it's the weirdest feeling, you guys. It feels like you're taking a giant poop. It feels so weird. You're pushing, you feel this thing coming out of your vagina. Is just like so weird. And so I kept on asking, do you see the head? Do you see the head? And I looked up at my husband. He's just like trying not to laugh. He's like, no, Simone, the head's not out yet. I'm like, is it here yet? Like, are we ready? Keep in mind too, you guys, I didn't know the sex of my baby. I didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. So it was like, I really wanted to know what the baby was, and I was really excited because this was the moment I've been waiting for. And so, my doctor's like, it's okay, you can push. And I just like guttural screamed. I'm like, what? Every single push. I had 3 pushes. I'm really proud to say I had 3 pushes, and it felt like really a long continual push. So I just like had this long continual push, and I felt the head come out. They're like, the head's out. I'm like, yes, I feel it. And it hurt a lot, you guys, but you're in such adrenaline that you're just trying to get the baby out. So I felt the head come out. Shoulders came out, and then just kind of, I felt the baby go through, and they caught the baby as the baby came out. I had a peanut pillow, which is a special pillow that you put your arms on, and so I had that, and then the baby came out, and they're like, oh, the baby's here, the baby's And I was like, yay! And I was like, what is it, Richard? Is it a girl? Is it a boy? He knew the sex of the baby because he had to know, he said. But he was like, it's a girl, Simone. I'm like, it's a girl. It's my Ruby. Because we decided on the name Ruby if it was a girl, and then we had a boy name too. And so they pushed the baby. It was so weird. I was on all fours. They pushed the baby. They put the baby underneath me, and then they pushed her up. And then, so I'm like on all fours, and I'm just looking at this baby, and I'm like, oh, there she is. There's my Ruby. And she's just like, oh, and then she just cried, and she was like, wah, wah, and it was the most, it was the most beautiful sound ever. So I don't want to get emotional, but it was the most beautiful sound because it had been a really long time being pregnant. I was so tired, and I had gone through the whole pandemic. I had gone through racism, Black Lives Matter, like I had gone through losing my job. I had gone through, scaling my business. I had gone through so much, and just to see the awesome healthy baby that she was, and she was 7 pounds 4 ounces. She wasn't tiny at all. She was totally normal. It was just a blessing. It was just a blessing from God that she just came out normally and no complications, just a sweet, special baby. She has a little jaundice, but it just was like, oh, my baby. I'm so happy. Our family couldn't come to the hospital because of COVID protocols. Our daughter couldn't come, so it was sad. Why am I crying in this video? But, she just came out and she just was so healthy and so perfect. So we just love her to death. We actually had to stay in the hospital because she was born 10:50 at night, so you have to stay a full 24 hours, and then they decide to let you go. It takes an hour to let you out, so we decided to stay 24 hours and then to the next morning. And so we didn't get to leave until 3 p.m. on, I believe, Saturday. And I just was so ready to go home. I was so sore, you guys. I tore a lot. They don't tell you about after you have the baby, but after you have the baby, they massage your uterus where they just are like kneading it like dough. And so they did that. That was so painful to get the placenta out. They stitched me up and I felt it, and they put lidocaine. They give you a huge lidocaine shot. It is so painful and uncomfortable. And so they stitched me up, and I had a 3rd-degree tear, which is pretty much I tore from my vagina to my butthole. Just keeping it real, you guys. I tore all the way there, so I was really sore. It was really painful. The nurses were great though, and they were so helpful. They put all these warm blankets on me too, because you basically have shock afterwards. You're like in shock from having this baby. So it was just insane. But yeah, so we did that, and it was such an experience. I'm happy that I got to push her out naturally, but I really wanted an epidural, I'm not gonna lie. So that's how Miss Ruby came, and she had trouble breastfeeding and getting enough. Well, she was just feeding a lot. She wasn't really having trouble getting the milk out. She was just really, really hungry. So we had to supplement her with formula. I had to beg for formula because they're a baby first hospital, which means they try to breastfeed, but she was just not stopping crying, and I was exhausted. So finally my doctor came in. Oh, and I forgot to say, my doctor was able to deliver my baby. She came right as I was transitioning, and she was there through about 20 minutes before I started pushing, and she helped me push the baby out, and then all of a sudden she was there to help me stitch me up, and then she was out. So it was awesome. But the pediatrician that my daughter uses, she got to come in as well, which was really awesome, and see the baby, and actually they were able to give her some some formula. So that was amazing, and she was able to eat and be full. But she's a really hungry baby, you guys. She doesn't love sleeping at night. She doesn't give me a lot of time to work on my business. I was in the middle of a launch during this, and I actually doubled my sales goal. So thank you so much, Ruby. It was a passive income launch. It was a sales launch, and I didn't really have to do much. I just kind of let my stuff go on autopilot, and people just bought. So it was amazing. But yeah, that's my birth story, you guys. Let me know if you came here from Instagram or if you're another mama in business or just a mama in general. I hope you guys like this video. It's real, it's raw. I don't have any makeup on. This is just what it is now with newborn life. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy the newborn content. This is what I'm enjoying making right now, but of course we'll be back to business type videos later. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.